best friends, or so Dave told him. They would sit on the carpet in Robin's room, and Dave would laugh and giggle as any child would while watching Robin push around his little toy cars. Often, Robin would try and introduce Dave to his mother, but of course his mother wasn't able to see Dave. He was imaginary. But as long as it made Robin happy, that's all that mattered. Robin's mother would humor him and pretend to be able to see and talk to Dave. This delighted Robin to the greatest point possible. Every child has imaginary friends, so this was normal. Robin would often draw pictures of him and Dave, and his mother was beyond amazed at the extent of the description and detail her 9-year-old boy portrayed his imaginary friend with. The picture depicted a child roughly the same age, blue eyes, and the darkest black hair possible, to be drawn with the child's crayon. Every picture Robin drew, there was a jagged red crayon streak across the eye of Dave. Upon inquisition, Robin explained Dave told him that that's where his dad had hit him with the hammer he had been using while fixing the car in the garage. Perplexing, but probably nothing more than the overexcited, stimulated mind of a generation raised by the television. Dave was always there for bedtime with Robin, but strangely enough, he didn't quite look the same once the lights had been shut off. He scared Robin, and Robin implored of his mother to leave a nightlight on for him. In the light, Dave was delightful. He would sit with his knees to his chest in the corner of the room and smile at Robin as he closed his eyes and drifted to sleep. Robin would always fall asleep with a smile on his face, knowing his best friend was there looking out for him. Robin slept with his teddy bear, but when he would wake up each morning, Dave would have removed it from his grasp and left it lying helpless on the floor. Every night was the same thing. The lights would be shut off, and what Robin saw of Dave would cause him to shake. Once the light was back on, his best friend had returned, smiling. That night, the light turned off while Robin slept. Robin's mom threw a tug at the edge of her blanket. Groggy from sleep, she rolled over to see what it was that summoned her son to her domain so late that night. The whitish moonlight that cast a glow through the pale curtains that covered her room illuminated the figure of not that of her son. The first thing she noticed was the deep red gash above the child's eye. The rotten teeth and pitch black eyes petrified her beyond her senses. She could smell the scent of death the earth had provided him with. The yellow skin hung loosely in his flaps around his flat face, exposing chipped skull and bits of brain that had somehow remained over the course of time. He smiled, the seemingly innocent smile of a child, but there were no teeth to bring any sort of appeal to the face. All that came forth from the mouth was a putrid liquid that poured out as water does from a faucet. She was too taken back to make even the softest of sounds. "Hi, I'm Dave. You must be Robin's mommy." Okay. So, I'm assuming that Dave was murdered by his father, given that the little boy Robin drew him with the red gash over his eye, and then, Dave told him that his dad hit him. So, poor Dave is a dead little boy, and Robin sees ghost, and that is insane. If I was Robin's mother, I don't know. I really don't even know what I would do if my child, I'm thinking he's innocently playing with the little imaginary friend, and then I see him, and I'm like, no honey, this is a dead little boy you're playing with. I don't know what I would have done. This next story I'm about to read to you is by The Dread Files, and it is called It Lives in the Ceiling. I hate working alone at night. It's so creepy here. There's no noise except running exhaust fans. I pleaded for my coworker to switch back to the evening shift with me. "Sorry, man, but I'm not going to work late if I don't have to," he replied. I, of course, understand I don't want to be here this late either. There's a certain eeriness being in an empty school alone at night. I swear sometimes I hear things I can't explain. I'll sometimes hear movement above me while working in a classroom, the sounds of scurrying seemingly coming from sliding in the occasional voice, very faint, but I know I hear it. I thought that it was all in my head. I've always had an overactive imagination. You're probably just making things up in your head to scare yourself, babe. My loving girlfriend had said so many times. I thought she was right. It was all in my head. That was until I saw it. It was a windy, dark, and cold night. I was working in a classroom. I could hear the wind howling outside. I heard a knocking sound coming from the ceiling. I told myself it was just the wind outside. I was kneeling on the floor, scraping something off the floor when I heard it. Come. It was so faint, like someone had whispered it into my ear. Startled, I jumped up and looked around the room. I saw and found nothing. I went back to work when I heard it again. Come to me, it whispered again. It was so faint and yet so strong, with a voice that was unfamiliar and yet sounded like an old friend. I stood up and looked around when I noticed a small puddle of water on the floor. I looked up and saw a ceiling tile was dripping wet. God damn it, I just changed that. I yelled out as I ran to grab a new one. Running back into the room, I heard the voice again. That's right, come to me, it whispered, but I shook it off. I climbed up the ladder and removed the wet ceiling tile, quietly cursing to myself. I stepped up onto the next rung of the ladder to look at the pipes in the ceiling to see if I could figure out where the water was coming from. As I stared into the dark and cold area above the ceiling tiles, I shined the light from my flashlight around, looking at the pipes. I darted the light from pipe to pipe, seeing nothing strange, until my light lit up a hand. It was outstretched towards me as if it was inviting me to grab it. I heard the whisper again. Come to me. Join me, it said. I was terrified, but could not move as the hand moved towards. I felt an overwhelming sense of horror, but also of warmth. Come home with me, it whispered again. I didn't want to touch it, but it was so familiar. I slowly reached out my hand. Then I saw its face. It looked like a man, but with one horrifying feature. It was missing both of its eyes. Seeing that horrible sight, I snapped out of it and slapped its hand away. When I did that, it yelled a horrible, ungodly sound. I started to descend the ladder, then when it grabbed me by the throat and brought its face up to mine. Do not fight me, child. I have watched and I have waited. You will be mine, it snarled in a horrifying voice. I was frozen, staring into the area where its eyes should have been. It was choking me. I felt my life force leaving me. I didn't know what to do, so I pushed off the ladder and fell. As I fell to the ground, I landed on my leg wrong and snapped it. I laid there as the pain overwhelmed me, looking up at the ceiling. That thing was there staring at me angrily. You will not escape me, child. I will have you. I will watch, wait, and bide my time. You will be mine, it yelled angrily in a horrific demonic voice as it moved its way back into the darkness of the ceiling. I blacked out shortly after. I woke up in the hospital. After not coming home, my girlfriend called the police. They said I'll be okay, that I have a broken leg and a major concussion. Once I was at home, I spoke to my girlfriend about it. I was too terrified to tell her about what I had seen, but I did tell her that I fell when I removed the ceiling tile. She said that was impossible since my coworker said the wet tile I replaced was still there. That from what they gathered, I fell off the ladder before I even touched it. Impossible. I know I at least pulled it down. Did that thing replace it, or did I fall and hit my head earlier than I thought? Maybe I did. But then, why can I hear it calling me while I lay in bed? Yo. Nope. He was working a late night shift in a school of all places.